So, uh, in the last video, I introduced you the library that I am making, bilza.js, and in this video, we'll start a small project in that library. So, I have opened Visual Studio Code, and you can use any other editor that you like. I have a simple index.html file. Yeah, actually, let me make this again. And I have written this code, but let's remove that as well. Let's start from scratch. So here, just create a normal HTML file, and here it is. All we need is a canvas element on this HTML file with some specific ID, preferably Bilsa. Let's see. So we have created a canvas element, that's it. And let's give it an ID, Bilsa. You can give any ID, but this is the default that library look for, but it can be any ID. You can, let's suppose you give it bilza01 and then create another canvas element and give it ID bilza02 and so on. So you can create as many canvas elements on a page as you want, and then you can write separate scripts for each canvas element, and the script will target its own ID. So far all we have done is created a HTML file. Now let's link it to a script file that I have already created, main.js, main.js. Here it is. Now that we have these two files, let's install Bilsa library. So for that, in case you have not used npm, this may seem a little advanced to you, but for a normal web developer, this is a daily routine. So npm install Bilza, Bilza, and that's it. It will take a little while, but I have got it installed already, so it may not take that long. Okay, now we have got 0 vulnerabilities found. I want to show you that when we let me open node modules, you will see that only one package has been installed. Normally what happens is every library is linked to 50 other libraries, and those 50 other libraries are further linked to several other libraries. This is not the case here. This is one self-contained library and it is linked to nothing else. So that is the end of it. Okay, now we import this library here. So import bilza from, and now look here. I am not using any build system. I am not using webpack or something like that. So I'll give it complete path so that there is no need to build it. So in node modules, we have gone to Bilsa library. Within Bilsa library, then we go to the source folder. And within the source folder, we have the bilza.js main file. This file exports everything. Everything that we need is in this file. It is within node modules, the name of the library, the source folder, and bilza with small b js. Okay, so we have got the bilza, and this is the default export, so we can write it like that. But we need yet another thing. At least these two things are necessary, and that is component factory, comp factory, and I'll write it as cf, so it is easy to write it now. Okay, Now let's start an instance of the Bilsa engine. And now here it will ask us for the canvas ID. So we give it the canvas ID, this ID we are talking about. And one important thing I forgot here, you must write type is equal to module here, because we are going to use ES6 modules. The library is completely modular. So that this thing is important, or it will give errors. So back to here. We have given it uh, ID, and now we want to tell it how much of the screen width it should occupy. Let's give it 75%. So this is how to create a responsive window. We can fix the size in pixels as well, but we'll look at that later. Now we need a component. So let's create a rectangle. So to create a component, we have component factory, and it has different methods which will create components and return them to us. So we have one fill rectangle. So we create a fill rectangle, and it takes just one argument, and that is the color of the fill rectangle. We can give it color like this, and I have another better idea that I'll show you later. So now we have a rectangle, and we have created the Bilsa engine, and we have got a rectangle. Now let's put this rectangle inside the Bilsa engine. Insert.add. I'll explain this more, but this is how you insert a component into the Bilsa engine. So name of the component, and then when should this appear in the animation? The starting frame. So obviously frame 0, and then we want to go it up to 60 seconds. So that is how it is. Okay, that's it. And now we can just create, start. Okay, I think it should work. Let's see. Okay, good. So we have got canvas, which is occupying 70% of screen width, and we have got a red rectangle. So it is not bad for few lines of code. In fact, if you don't mind, I want to go to the HTML file and want to convert the background black. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. I'm doing something. Sorry, there was a little problem, uh, so I had to pause. But anyways, I have set the background to black so that we can see the canvas uh, better. So now let's add another. This is the rectangle. Let's add another uh, component, grid. Grid is equal to component factory dot grid. We have more than one type of grids, but we'll explain that later. So this two just take one argument, and that is the color of the grid. We'll go into more details later. For the time being, we are just getting our feet wet. So once again, build.insert, but this time instead of add, we will use always on because we want to keep this always on. So we just give it the name, and there is no need to give it starting frame and ending frame. So let's look at it again, and we have got a grid. So you see, it's not that difficult. Now we have got uh, rectangle, so we like to move it a bit. So that is not a big issue. It's just rectangle dot x dot animate. So we can, like, let me show you something that each component has these properties like border, color background, color border, and height, interactive opacity, and these. And we can animate them. So for the time being, let's just animate x. Rectangle dot x dot, and it has this animate function, and it is very simple. The starting time of the animation, let's say from the second onward, we want to make it move, and let's move it up to 10 second, and we want to start it from 0% and go up to 100%. Please keep in mind that the values we give it are in percentages and not in pixels. We can change them later on to pixels, but we will look at that in the future. So let's see, where did it go? Yeah. So it will wait for a while, and then it will start animating, and it will take the whatever amount of time you give it to reach the other end. You can see that it has gone outward. You can still see the tail because it has to move 100%. Let's add yet another component, and that is counter. Counter is equal to component factory dot frame counter, and once again it just take color. So let's give it yellow. Okay, and now we have to insert it as well. Build dot insert dot always on once again, and the name of the component. So let's look at it again. Yes, it is, but it is hidden under the rectangle. So let's move it a little lower. Counter dot y dot set 30%. Once again, it will move it down in the y direction 30%. These are not pixels for the time being. We can convert them. We'll look at them later. Okay, so let's look at it again. Let's refresh. Now we can see it waited for completion of 2 seconds, and then it started moving, and by the end of approximately 10 seconds, yeah, by the completion of 10 seconds, it's completed its uh, required task. So you see, it's very easy. All you have to do is create the Bilsa engine and then get this component factory, and this component factory will keep giving you components, different components, and you can add them and change their xy values and animate them. And so I hope you like it, and in next we will move on and look at other ways to use this library. Thank you.